Next we're going to talk about a pretty thorough home first aid kit. Talked about this already and how it's a lot of the same components, but there are some overflow items that I could not fit to this bag that are in this bag. If you're doing a big, messier job, potentially it'd be a good idea to have a spill cleanup kit, so to have stuff like absorbent powder, disinfectant wipes, a scoop or spatula, paper towels, antiseptic wipes and gloves, and a biohazard bag. Takes up a lot of space, so maybe keep it with the kit, not in the kit. I've shown this already, but a medical roll, so it's easy to see the items that are in here and get things out. It's kind of organized as like trauma and external, like skin related items, airway, and then miscellaneous stuff. So in the trauma kit, we've got stuff like a chest seal and gauze pads and bandages and ACE rolls and elastic bandages, flashlight. In this external kit, we've got some wipes for poison oak, poison ivy, some liquid bandage, a razor kit, and antibiotic creams, and then also some basic medications. So antidiarrheal, electrolyte tabs, antihistamines, ibuprofen, acetaminophen, and antacids. Airway kit has CPR mask and some of these airway kit components. Also have a stethoscope down there. So this bottom portion, like I said, is more miscellaneous stuff. So in those little Ziplocs so that stuff doesn't go missing. We've got stuff like syringes, hemostats, scissors, the tips for the syringes, surgical blades, some suture kits, just stuff that I would like to keep clean and from going missing. Cold compress. There's a eye pad in here, a little bit more serious combat eye shields, so it's made out of metal for dealing with eye injuries, and then some petroleum dressings down the bottom. Not going to go through all the rest of it because so much of it is duplicated in here, so let me clean this up. Like we talked about in the previous video, tourniquets are an important part of your trauma kit. It's also an important part of the first aid kit, so having more than one is a good idea. They can also come in just this little MOLLE pouch where you can attach this easily to a belt or a chest rig or a plate carrier or a backpack, or like I have just connected to my first aid kit. Easy to access right in here. If you have a marker, you can write the time that you set the tourniquet. Obviously very easy to get to would be a good idea. So I'll set that to the side. Trauma-centric items that are in this first aid kit over on this side. So a couple complete sets of chest seals for multiple gunshot wounds at different locations. They're only 6 by 6, so you potentially need a couple for larger amounts of gunshot wounds. Another tourniquet, different style, a couple pressure bandages. They take up a lot of space, but they are pretty useful. Got a 4-inch hemostatic control bandage and a 6-inch hemorrhage control bandage. Some quick clot. Technically this is quick clot clotting sponge, and this is a Z-fold gauze that's impregnated with quick clot. Set that to the side. The other side of the package, got some self-adherent wrap, various types of waterproof and medical tape, big collection of gauze sponges, and then a really large collection of surgical sutures, if you know what you're doing with those. In the front of the bag, got a couple different types of hand sanitizer, some Neosporin. Stuff's obviously quick access, easy to get to, a lot of alcohol antiseptic pads and wipes, and antiseptic towelettes. Probably a good idea to have a Sharpie of a couple different colors so you can monitor swelling, or you can write important information on either components like the tourniquet or on a person's body. Also, a box cutter knife could be useful. A more full-size CPR mask, it's a little bit more easy to use and just faster to use than the small little personal use CPR masks. It takes up a lot of space though. And then for inside the main compartment, so emergency drinking water, if you're going to include any sort of medication, powder, or you're dealing with any sort of dehydration injury, good idea to have some emergency water. That's what all of this is back here. These sport bottles are handy because in addition to knowing exactly how much water is in here, if you've measured out beforehand, you can also open the cap and you can get a little pressure out of it if you needed to use it as a irrigation tool. These two sport bottles combined with this 32-ounce Nalgene is one person's full 64-ounce serving of water that they need for a day. Should be a good start to helping deal with some sort of dehydration injury. Talked about this before, but just poison oak and poison ivy skin cleanser. Baby wipes for obvious reasons. Antibacterial hand wipes. You can use this before putting on gloves, but also after putting on gloves if you've done any sort of first aid task you like to clean your hands off. The gloves, probably a good idea to have a lot of spare gloves, disposable gloves, something that you can take off without getting your hands dirty. Hydrogen peroxide, this is a little bit redundant because I've got a big bottle of it here. You don't need both, but depending on what form factor you like to use, either the big bottle that you can spray out the top or the spray bottle, but you don't necessarily need both. But you do need hydrogen peroxide. You also need alcohol for cleaning, maybe a couple rolls of heavy duty waterproof tape, medical tape. Let's get some of this back so you can see. These are handy. It's just a good way of keeping track of gauze pads and all sorts of different size band-aids. So that's what's in there. And then an even slimmer version of a way of storing a lot more antiseptic towelettes, antiseptic pads, non-aspirin, pain relief medication, aspirin, ibuprofen, antibiotic ointment, hydrocortisone creams, burn creams, and anti-allergy or allergy medication. You can store that in something like that. It makes it a lot easier for this stuff to not go missing in your bag. This hydration multiplier, there's a couple different versions of it. It's called Liquid IV, it's the brand name. It's obviously not as good as an actual IV, but it does do a better job of replenishing electrolytes and helping deal with dehydration more so than just water. But you need water to add it to. So 16 ounces of water, one pouch, and it's a good way of just quickly rehydrating somebody that's become dehydrated by adding a packet to a bottle of water like that. This one is a little bit more geared towards immune support. So there are a lot of the same ingredients, same calories, same overall like technology of just electrolyte replenishment, but the immune support has more vitamin C and zinc and a couple more of the vitamins. You can see on the nutrition label that it's got some of the B vitamins and vitamin C, some potassium, a lot of sugar, and then some salt. So like those, and then depending on what type of area you live in or what kind of issues you might expect to run into, some reactive like chemical decontamination lotion. You get this kind of stuff at like military surplus, but for dealing with like chemical warfare type issues, This finger injury kit is just a finger splint. Obviously you got more than one finger, so having a splint kit like this is a good starting point. Having something you can splint an arm, forearm, wrist, a finger. If you're hurting a single finger, you're potentially going to hurt more than one finger, so it'd be a good idea to have a couple options for a finger splint. Another combat eye shield with instructions on it. For eye injuries, some more petroleum jelly, compression bandage. For eye injuries, so just for basic redness relief and irritation relief, just some Clear Eyes, but also mentioned in a previous video, eye wash and eye pad kit. This is obviously takes a lot more space than the smaller eye wash kit that we've talked about before, where it's just 1 ounce bottle of solution, 2 eye pads, and adhesive strips. This is a much bigger bottle. It's 4 fluid ounces. We've got the same oval eye wash, or the eye pads, but you also have an actual eye cup. It makes it a lot easier to rinse your eye out if you have that. It just takes up more space. Some more hydrocortisone cream. Even more of the gauze sponges. You can use it to put on top of an injury, or you can use it to clean an injury. Work as a sponge. Antiseptic first aid spray. Separate. It's a little different than alcohol and hydrogen peroxide. Carmex medicated lip balm for either preventing or dealing with chapped lips or sunburn on your lips. Some glucose tablets. Obviously, once again, it'd be nice to have water to go with the tablets, but there's 10 of those in there. If you're dealing with diabetic type issues, some Q-tips in a clean, somewhat dirt-proof container, a couple thermometers. Maybe if you're using them for different types, label them so you don't use the wrong one for the wrong location. Some more just different variation to hydration, electrolyte replenishment packets. These ones also have glucosamine added in, so for athletic use those can be useful. Some more Neosporin and some more Ace bandage sport wrap. Some of the other things you can maybe add if you have space. Pepto-Bismol, you don't need such a huge bottle of it, but that's a possibility. Tums, once again, doesn't need to be such a huge bottle. You can get away with smaller containers. Maybe cough drops or other basic medications or antibiotics. This it's obviously not as long lasting as an actual oxygen bottle, but it also doesn't actually require a mask or hose. This is 10 liters of pure breathing oxygen. It's technically designed for things like increasing aerobic performance, recharging and recovering afterwards, and then altitude and poor air quality situations. Each person typically in one breath will consume a half of a liter of ambient air. Obviously not to 95% oxygen like this is. So according to the bottle, you have up to 200 1-second inhalations, which is asking a lot. In reality, if you were just taking an entire breath out of this would last you at maybe 20 breaths per minute. It would last you exactly 1 minute. But you most likely don't need to breathe pure oxygen. So I think the reason it's designed and that they're saying that you've got 200 1-second inhalations is because if you just click it on for a second of your breath, then you're getting an overall higher concentration of oxygen than you would get else or otherwise. Never used it before, but it seems like it'd be something good to have in a pinch, because even though 10 liters of pure oxygen is not a lot, it's better than nothing. So with that, I think that's pretty much everything in the bag. If you wanted to go even above and beyond a home first aid kit, the kind of things that Navy and Coast Guard search and rescue helicopters would keep on board,